Wonderful. Anyone else? Any other questions? Yes.
Good evening. My name is Amber. I work for the Balm and Gilead, and I'm also a volunteer. My more concern and question, we see that not only do we have a large growth in population of our youth coming out, but also I've never said old people. I've always been taught that elders are seasoned people. You're well seasoned. So we see a lot of growth in our seasoned people as well. How do you all feel as seeing the church and the rejection towards the people coming in? You see a lot of the LGBT, gays, lesbians, bisexual people coming into the church wanting to get closer to whoever they believe in, but also be comfortable with themselves, not having a problem with, I'm with this person, this is my partner, and I love them, without the church saying, you can't come here because you're out, you're gay, you're lesbian, we do not respect your decisions, this is not something that we do. How do you all feel about that being rejection towards people who want to come closer? Because also, I mean, like you said before, AIDS and HIV and AIDS, it is a taboo. People don't want to talk about it, but it's in their families. They don't want to talk about their issues in their families when it comes down. You have a whole bunch of people in the church that have it that are afraid to come to their pastors because they have it. It's like, I don't want to talk about it because I'm afraid that they're going to reject me. They're going to send me out the church, and I want to get closer to who I believe in before anything ever goes wrong, or I leave this earth knowing that I did not have that close relationship with my minister and the one who I believe in.
That's a loaded question. That's a book. We're going to talk about that. We'll take this as our final question, and I ask the panelists, whoever it is that feels like you would like to respond, please do.
You know, I think these issues are affecting everyone. You know, statements have been done, but at one point, even the religious leaders are coming to understand that it has been so much. Before I came for this conference, we had our EXCO, All Archdiocesan meeting. Like I mentioned, I'm a secretary to the Council of the Laity, Kampala Archdiocese. And this is where realization was made that people now, so many people, a big number of people are not coming to church. Catholic Church are going to other Pentecostal churches because of a lot of things. In our community language, it is user-friendly services. So how do you target the community? We do user-friendly services. So people are going to other churches because of those user-friendly programs. Dancing, singing, whereas somehow it is spiritual, and then people are humble, very humble in front of God. So I remember one of the resolutions made in this council was to make inclusive participation of everybody in the church, such that every person should feel comfortable when he or she comes to the church. And besides that, the Archbishop encouraged us to do other activities after church service, at least to interact, have some programs that bring together people to discuss. But most interesting is the approach that our Archbishop is introducing, which is called village chapels. What does he want to see in the village chapels? At least 5 families to convene in a community and talk about their issues. They can meditate on the word, they can pray, but still talk about health issues, gender-based violence, have some first aid, education, economic empowerment, and the rest. What I feel in Kampala Archdiocese, it is going to be a unique program that is going to bring together everybody. At least in those 5 communities of families that are uniting together, will have an opportunity to talk about their own issues that are affecting them in that community. And it is not discriminating anybody, whether Muslim or Pentecostal, so long as you live in that community and you agree that gender-based violence, HIV and AIDS, or any health issues affect you. So this is a trend that is Kampala Archdiocese is taking in Uganda. I feel it's going to address all these things, and then we shall have an opportunity of an entry point when we are talking about human rights.
Others? Yes.
Within the Muslim world, we have to sort of look at it as 2 different pieces. In the West, the information is out there, but because of concerns of what others may say about you in the community, then the issue is not necessarily one that they make public, but may do through internet research or talk. You get a phone call one day from someone, whereas in the more traditional area, the virus continues to spread because, like in Saudi Arabia, for example, I have some friends who are in the medical field there, and they're forbidden by law to tell wives that their husbands have given them STDs. They're just to treat it. So it remains under the radar. And so it's not something that people are willing to deal with. But one thing that did happen over the last 2 years, we've had here in the West, we've had LGBT retreat, Muslim retreat. And one thing that has come out is that we've now have more older people, seniors coming out. We had our youngest person last year who was 17, with the assistance of his parents, a senior in high school, came to our retreat, and the eldest was 66 years old. So now this last retreat, the youngest was 18, and the eldest, I believe, was 64. But there were more people on the senior side, older and senior side, coming out. So those are issues that are there, and people are expressing themselves in terms that they are HIV positive, or they have other issues in terms of STDs, and that they're speaking out, they're becoming more public about it. So this is an unfolding process like a lotus, in terms that it's now unfolding and they can't escape it anymore.
I think it's very important what religious leaders are saying, but I would also like to point out the importance of ordinary people, and in particular parents. Parents of people in our communities. And during the retreat in Nairobi, exactly that relationship to parents came up as a very, very crucial issue, how to deal with that, and how can even parents be supported. Okay, I live in a very privileged situation by the fact that my parents were very positive, but they very quickly got into contact with other parents, and together with a theologian, they could deal with some of the Bible passages in a group of parents, which was very helpful. And just to finish that, because then when my uncle, sorry, did you hear anything of what I said? Yes? By the fact that my father and my mother has been so supportive, my uncle came out as a gay man when he was 80 at a Christmas just 2.5 years ago. And it was very moving that he could then tell his older brother, for the first time in his life, we had our thoughts and we were quite sure, but that he still at that age could dare to say it was a very beautiful thing. But it means so much what an ordinary person in a congregation are able to also to communicate to other people. So we shouldn't say that it's only the leaders, but it's also the ordinary believers in the communities. Very, very important. Thank you.
And you'll have the final word, Reverend Mike?
Woohoo.
Woohoo. The head gay.
Well, I think a couple of things, because one of the words that you mentioned was fear. And I think it is a critical aspect that has to be addressed. And one of the baseline challenges that we always have to be working at is creating the space for the conversation and for folks who are coming out. And one of the very important parts of the early movement of inclusion in many of the Christian denominations in the United States was becoming a sanctuary for folks who are coming out, or folks who are thinking about coming out, or folks who are exploring, their sexual orientation and trying to figure out what their identity was. But there was a space for that. But also, I think we have to be fairly adamant that houses of worship need to be a safe space for everyone, that the core values of all of our faith traditions encourage us to make that so. that most of all of our faith traditions have something to say about being created in the image of God, and that every person as a child of God is endowed with worth and dignity that human judgment cannot set aside. And when we live from those values, it makes a difference, and it can help and serve to lower the fear. I think the other piece of it is we have to understand that it's a developmental process, and we go through these stages of development. And sometimes we move forward from one stage to another, and there are things that can happen that can throw us backwards as well. But part of that developmental process is not just about coming to terms with sexual orientation. It's coming to terms with difference. And difference has many different faces, but the more we are able to relate to difference, the better we are able at creating the safe spaces and having the conversations that we need to have about a whole host of things. What we've learned through some studies in the United States, is that the LGBT conversation is actually one of the conversations that opens the door to so many other conversations about difference. And unfortunately, it doesn't go the other way around. So those two things I think are really critical about that aspect.
I think we should appreciate this panel one more time. Let's really let them know how much we appreciate them. I want to say thanks again to UCAN folks and to the HRC and to the EAA and to all of the other acronyms that we are in this house tonight.
The Balm and Gilead.
To the Balm and Gilead.
And Howard Divinity
and to
School.
Howard Divinity School. And
Dr. Pollard, who's here with us
Dr.
tonight.
Pollard, who is here, and Sister Pollard, who is also here tonight.
And the
We're
Religious
so glad
Institute.
To see you, and the Religious Institute. Now, let's thank everybody for this opportunity.